You're standing in a clothing store. You see a sweater on the rack. The color is perfect. The style is exactly what you wanted. You take it to the fitting room and it doesn't fit. The shoulders are too tight, so you walk out and look for someone who works there. And then you realize you don't know how to ask for what you need. Do you just hold up the sweater and point? Or do you know the exact sentence, simple, clear, natural, that every English speaker uses in that moment? Maybe you've been in a store and stayed silent because you weren't sure what to say. Maybe you bought the wrong size because you didn't want to ask. By the end of today's episode, you will know exactly what to say in a clothing store, from the moment you walk in to the moment you pay and walk out. This is day 15 of your 30-day English journey. 14 days down, 15 to go. Right now, you are moving from A1 toward B1, step by step, episode by episode. Today, Sarah finishes something very important on a Friday morning and then takes the afternoon to treat herself to a small reward. She walks into a clothing store on Atlantic Avenue, and we're going to follow her in. Let's see what happens. It is Friday. Sarah woke up at 7:30. Her throat still felt a little rough. Not as bad as yesterday, but still there. She made tea instead of coffee and sat at her desk with a blanket around her shoulders. Today was the last day. The portfolio deadline was at midnight, and she still had a few things to finish. She opened her laptop. The portfolio document was already there, waiting for her. 10 pieces of work laid out in order. An introduction she had written and rewritten until it sounded like her. Short captions for each piece. A clean, simple cover page with her name and the title, Urban Warmth, a visual identity for small Brooklyn businesses. She spent 2 hours going through it one final time. She checked every image. She read every sentence. She adjusted one caption that felt too formal, changed 3 words, and it was better. At 11:45 in the morning, she opened the Brooklyn Creative Awards submission portal. She uploaded the file. She filled in the required fields: name, email, entry title. She checked the box that said, "I confirm this is my original work." She pressed submit. A green confirmation screen appeared. Your portfolio has been received. Thank you for your submission, Sarah Chen. She read it twice. Then she closed her laptop. She sat very still for a moment. And then she smiled, quietly, to herself, in her apartment on a Friday morning in November. It was done. Sarah made herself another cup of tea, ate a bowl of soup, and looked out the window. It was cold outside, but the sky was clear, a bright, clean November blue, the kind of day that looked good from the inside and felt good the moment you stepped into it. She had been indoors for 4 days. She had worked through a presentation, a cold, and a competition deadline. She had barely left her apartment except to go to a cafe and a clinic. She decided to go outside. Not to work, not to run an errand, just to walk. And maybe, if she saw something she liked, to buy herself a small reward. She had been thinking for a few weeks about getting a new sweater, something warm and simple. She pulled on her coat and walked down to Atlantic Avenue, where there were several clothing shops between the pharmacy and the bookstore. She stopped in front of a store called Fielder's. It was a small independent shop, not a chain, not a department store. Just a narrow room with wooden floors, good lighting, and a careful selection of clothes displayed on simple racks. An independent store is a shop owned and run by one person or a small group, not part of a large company or chain. Sarah preferred independent stores. They were quieter, more personal, and the people who worked there usually knew the products well. She pushed open the door and went inside. The store was warm and quiet inside. Soft music played in the background, something instrumental, low and unhurried. The clothes were arranged neatly on racks and folded on wooden shelves. Sarah began browsing. To browse means to look around in a relaxed way, without looking for one specific thing. You browse when you're not sure exactly what you want. You're just looking, open to finding something. She moved slowly through the store. She ran her fingers along a rack of sweaters, checking the fabric, the weight of each one. Fabric is the material that clothing is made from. Cotton, wool, linen, silk, these are all types of fabric. Sarah preferred natural fabrics. She liked the way wool felt heavy and warm. She didn't like synthetic materials that felt slippery or stiff. After a few minutes, a young woman who worked at the store approached her. She had short hair and a friendly, easy manner. "Hi there, can I help you find anything?" "Hi," Sarah said. "I'm looking for a sweater. Something warm, simple, maybe in a neutral color. Earth tones if you have them." Earth tones are colors that come from nature. Brown, beige, rust, olive green, warm gray. They are often described as neutral because they work well with many other colors. "We just got a few new arrivals," the employee said. She walked toward a section near the back wall. "What size are you?" "Medium, usually. Sometimes small if it's a looser fit." The employee pulled out 2 sweaters. One was a deep rust color, like dried autumn leaves. The other was a warm cream, almost off-white. "These are both 100% merino wool," she said. "Very soft. The rust one runs a little small. I'd go with medium for you. The cream one fits true to size." "Can I try them on?" Sarah asked. "Of course. The fitting room is just in the back." The fitting room was a small curtained space at the back of the store. A full-length mirror on one wall. A padded bench to set things down on. A fitting room, also called a changing room or dressing room, is the small private space in a clothing store where you try on clothes before buying them. To try on means to put on a piece of clothing in the store to see if it fits and looks good on you. You always try on before you buy. Sarah tried the rust sweater first. She pulled it over her head and looked in the mirror. The color was beautiful, warm, rich, the kind of color that made her complexion look alive. But the shoulders were tight. She lifted her arms and felt the fabric pull. Tight means too small. The clothing is pressing against the body. The opposite is loose. The clothing is too big and hangs away from the body. A good fit is somewhere in between, comfortable, not pulling, not baggy. She opened the curtain and found the employee. "Do you have this in a larger size?" This is one of the most useful phrases in any clothing store. "Do you have this in a larger size?" Or, "Do you have this in a smaller size?" Or, "Do you have this in a different color?" Simple, direct, always understood. "Let me check," the employee said. She came back a moment later. "I'm sorry, we only have the one medium left in the rust, but we have a large if you'd like to try it." Sarah tried the large. It was better across the shoulders, but too loose at the waist, and the sleeves were slightly too long. Not right. She put it aside and tried the cream sweater in medium. She pulled it on, smoothed it down, and looked in the mirror. It fit perfectly. The fabric was soft against her skin. The color was quiet and clean, easy to wear with almost anything. She turned slightly to check the back. She liked it. Sarah came out of the fitting room holding both sweaters. She handed the rust one back to the employee. "The large is too big for me, and you're out of medium, but this one," she held up the cream, "fits perfectly." "Great choice," the employee said. "That one is very versatile." Versatile means useful in many different situations. A versatile piece of clothing works well with many different outfits. A plain cream sweater, for example, can be worn with jeans, with dress pants, over a collared shirt, many combinations. Versatile is a compliment. Sarah brought the sweater to the counter. "That'll be $62, the employee said. "Do you take card?" "Yes, chip or contactless. Either works." Sarah tapped her card against the rear. The machine beeped once. The employee folded the sweater neatly, wrapped it in tissue paper, and placed it in a small paper bag. "Would you like your receipt in the bag?" "Yes, please." A receipt is the printed or digital record of what you bought and how much you paid. It is useful if you need to return or exchange something later. To exchange means to bring something back to the store and get a different item, a different size, a different color instead. Sarah thanked the employee and stepped back out onto Atlantic Avenue. She stood on the sidewalk for a moment, paper bag in one hand, the cold November air on her face. The portfolio was submitted. The presentation was done. She had been sick and kept going, and now she had a new cream sweater in a paper bag and nowhere to be for the rest of the afternoon. She walked home slowly, taking the long way. For the first time in 4 days, nowhere at all to be. Today was Friday. Sarah finished her competition portfolio and submitted it before noon, 12 hours before the midnight deadline. Then she went outside for the first time in 4 days, walked to a clothing store on Atlantic Avenue, and bought herself a new sweater, a small reward for a very full week. Let's quickly review today's vocabulary. To browse. To look around a store in a relaxed way without looking for one specific thing. Fabric. The material that clothing is made from. Cotton, wool, linen, and so on. A fitting room. The small private room in a store where you try on clothes. To try on. To put on clothing in a store to see if it fits and looks good. To fit. To be the right size and shape for your body. Tight. Too small, pulling against the body. Loose. Too big, hanging away from the body. Earth tones. Natural. Neutral colors like brown, beige, rust, and olive green. Versatile. Useful in many situations. Works well with many different things. A receipt. The record of what you bought and how much you paid. To exchange. To return something and get a different item instead. And the sentence of the day, do you have this in a larger size? One sentence. One of the most useful things you can say in any clothing store anywhere in the world. If you finished today's episode, type Day 15 Done in the comments right now. It helps you track your progress, and I love reading your notes. Tomorrow is Day 16. Sarah talks about her hobbies, what she likes to do in her free time. We'll learn how to describe your interests in English and how to ask other people about theirs. Keep listening, keep learning. See you tomorrow.